The arena was electric, buzzing with anticipation. From every corner, the crowd's murmurs and excited whispers created a tension you could almost touch. In the center stood a swordsman, his blade gleaming under the lights, confidence radiating from every movement. He believed himself untouchable, certain that his skill with the sword would carry him to victory. But across from him, calm and focused, was Bruce Lee. There was no showmanship, no flashy display, just a serene presence that somehow commanded attention. Every eye in the arena was on him, sensing the quiet intensity that seemed to flow from his every gesture. The swordsman lunged slightly, testing the waters, while Bruce's gaze remained unshaken, every muscle relaxed yet ready. You could almost feel the mental chess happening in that split second. The anticipation, the calculation, the tension. Viewers at home or in the stands leaned forward instinctively, hearts racing. Questions ran through everyone's minds. Who would make the first move? Could raw confidence with a weapon stand against unmatched skill and precision? This wasn't just a duel. It was a moment that promised to be unforgettable. If you were there, who would you bet on? Bruce Lee's skill or the swordsman's confidence? The swordsman's confidence was almost tangible. He held his blade with an air of certainty, convinced that no one could touch him. Every movement he made, every twirl of his sword, every shift of his weight was designed to intimidate, to show dominance. The audience could feel his pride radiating across the arena. He had trained for years, mastered every technique he knew, and yet, standing opposite him was someone entirely different. Bruce Lee, calm and composed, appeared almost unassuming at first glance. He wasn't imposing in size, nor did he make a show of his strength. But in his eyes, the crowd could see a quiet confidence that came from something far deeper than muscle or skill, a mastery honed through years of focus, discipline, and understanding. As the swordsman raised his blade, testing his perceived invincibility, Bruce's body language remained relaxed. There was no unnecessary tension, no theatrics, only awareness, precision, and readiness. His presence alone shifted the atmosphere. Every spectator, whether in the arena or watching from afar, could sense it. This was not a typical contest of strength or weapon mastery. This was a mental and physical battle where every glance, every subtle movement carried meaning. The contrast between the two was stark. The swordsman relied on confidence and experience, believing sheer skill with his weapon would dominate any opponent. Bruce relied on anticipation, strategy, and instinct honed to perfection. The swordsman's energy was bold and overt. Bruce's energy was calm, measured, and controlled. The tension built not from violence, but from the psychological interplay, the silent calculation in Bruce's eyes versus the swordsman's overt self-assurance. Fans leaned forward, imagining the moment when the first strike would fall. Every heartbeat seemed synchronized with the unspoken challenge between the two. Some whispered about Bruce's legendary speed and precision. Others debated whether the swordsman's confidence would be enough. And in that charged silence, a subtle question hung in the air. Could unwavering focus and skill truly overcome raw confidence and a weapon in expert hands? If you were standing at ringside right now, what would you be thinking? Rooting for the skill, the confidence, or just watching to see who missteps first? Comment below with your perspective. The moment the first feint came, the arena seemed to hold its breath. The swordsman shifted his weight, his blade slicing through the air in a practiced arc, confident it would find its mark. Every eye followed the movement, anticipating impact, but Bruce Lee did not react in the way anyone expected. Instead of lunging or parrying aggressively, his body moved with a calm precision, almost as if he had already seen the strike before it happened. The audience could hardly keep up, their excitement quickly turning into awe. The swordsman's confidence remained for a brief second, but cracks began to appear. Each attack he launched was met not with brute strength, but with subtle redirection. Bruce's movements were fluid, almost liquid-like, shifting with the momentum rather than resisting it. It wasn't just a defensive maneuver. It was a calculated display of control. Every adjustment, every sidestep, every tilt of his body was deliberate, demonstrating mastery without a single unnecessary motion. Fans leaned closer, some whispering to neighbors, trying to process what they were witnessing. There was a psychological battle playing out as much as a physical one. The swordsman, who had believed his blade made him untouchable, now faced an opponent who anticipated his every move. The audience felt the tension growing. The excitement transformed into a quiet, edge-of-your-seat suspense. Every strike, every feint was no longer just an action. Could raw confidence and skill with a weapon overcome unmatched precision and focus? The swordsman tried to increase the tempo, launching a rapid succession of attacks, hoping to overwhelm Bruce before he could react. But Bruce Lee's calm presence never wavered. His eyes followed the sword, his body anticipating the smallest cues, the subtle shift in a wrist, the tightening of a shoulder, the weight transfer before a swing. Each motion he made redirected energy, neutralized force, and left the swordsman slightly off balance, though barely enough to notice at first. And that was the subtle brilliance of the escalation. The audience didn't just see a fight, they saw a masterclass in anticipation. The swordsman's confidence was being chipped away with every perfectly timed response. His attacks grew more forceful, more desperate, yet Bruce remained steady, guiding the encounter without raising his voice, without showing strain. Even the smallest movements carried meaning. Every gesture Bruce made sent a clear message. Control and awareness are more powerful than raw force. If you were in Bruce Lee's position, facing someone so confident and aggressive, would you strike immediately or wait for the perfect opening? Type your choice and why. The arena's energy shifted subtly, but undeniably. Gasps punctuated the silence as Bruce Lee's movements started dictating the flow of the duel. The swordsman's strikes, once bold and assertive, began to hesitate ever so slightly. He adjusted mid-swing, recalibrated his stance, and started questioning his own timing. The audience could feel his confidence waver. For the first time, there was doubt in the air, not about Bruce's skill, but about the swordsman's ability to match it. Every attempt to push Bruce off balance was met with controlled, effortless redirection. The crowd noticed the finesse. Bruce was never simply avoiding damage. He was guiding the interaction, subtly reshaping the battle with his calm dominance. The tension was thick. Every second felt elongated, as if the arena itself had slowed down to watch. The swordsman's attacks became more erratic, and yet Bruce remained the eye of the storm, predicting, responding, and maintaining control. It was no longer just about who could strike hardest or fastest. It was about mental acuity, composure under pressure, and a deep understanding of timing. Every spectator, whether watching live or imagining themselves at home, felt the stakes rise, knowing that skill and focus were beginning to outweigh raw confidence. The battle was no longer about intimidation. It was about precision, awareness, and anticipation. Bruce Lee's mastery was evident to everyone, and the swordsman's initial certainty had begun to crumble. The audience, fully immersed, now anticipated the coming climax with bated breath, understanding that the decisive moment was imminent. By now, the crowd was completely captivated. The swordsman, once brimming with unshakable confidence, was beginning to feel the weight of Bruce Lee's presence. Every swing of his blade, every calculated step, was met with an almost imperceptible adjustment from Bruce. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't about striking to harm, but it was undeniably effective. The arena, once filled with excitement and cheering, had fallen into a tense, almost reverent silence. Spectators were no longer simply watching a duel. They were witnessing a lesson in control, precision, and focus. The swordsman's attacks had grown more deliberate, more aggressive, as if he could force the outcome through sheer will. But Bruce remained a study in calmness. His breathing was measured, his movements smooth and deliberate, and his eyes, unwavering, seemed to read far beyond the immediate threat. It was as if he had anticipated every possible action, every potential feint, and had a response ready before the first motion even began. This subtle yet undeniable mastery shifted the psychological battlefield entirely. The audience began to sense the difference between force and skill, between confidence and true control. What made the moment even more compelling was the psychological interplay. The swordsman's confidence, once solid, now wavered. He hesitated for just a fraction of a second, enough for Bruce to exploit with near-invisible efficiency. The audience could see it, a slight adjustment of weight, a micro-movement of the wrist, a barely noticeable flick of the eyes. These were not dramatic gestures, but small, precise indications that Bruce was orchestrating the encounter, quietly reshaping the fight with his calm expertise. Every spectator, whether ringside or watching on screens halfway across the globe, could feel the tension building. Bruce's demeanor did more than control the fight. It influenced perception. The swordsman's aggression, once intimidating, began to seem almost reactive. He was no longer dictating the pace. He was responding to it. Every action Bruce took created subtle openings, teaching lessons without words. And in that silence, the audience became fully engaged, imagining themselves in the arena, feeling the mental strain, sensing the pressure of facing someone whose skill seemed almost preternatural. The arena's energy had shifted. Gasps and whispers had replaced outright cheers. Spectators leaned forward instinctively, some holding their breath as they followed the sword's path and Bruce's fluid, anticipatory movements. It wasn't just excitement anymore, it was awe. Bruce Lee's calm presence created a mirror, reflecting every ounce of overconfidence and turning it into hesitation. The swordsman was still fighting, but the fight was no longer just physical. It had transformed into a mental contest of anticipation, control, and composure. Have you ever faced someone whose focus or skill completely surprised you? Did it intimidate you, inspire you, or make you think differently? Comment your experience below. Bruce's subtle movements were mesmerizing. He didn't strike recklessly, yet each motion communicated authority and mastery. The swordsman's frustration was palpable. His previous certainty had given way to calculation, hesitation, and doubt. Viewers could feel it too. The tension in the air, the unspoken recognition that raw confidence was not enough. Every subtle dodge, every quiet shift of weight, every micro-counter was a lesson in patience, skill, and anticipation. The psychological stakes were now as high as the physical ones. The swordsman's mind raced, trying to regain control, trying to force an opening that simply wasn't there. Bruce remained centered, projecting a calm dominance that seemed almost impossible to disrupt. For the audience, this was more than a duel. It was a masterclass in strategy, poise, and the difference between confidence and true expertise. By the end of this mid-climax moment, it was clear the fight was no longer just about who could wield a sword faster or stronger. It was about mental acuity, anticipation, and composure under pressure. Bruce Lee's skill had transformed the entire dynamic. The swordsman's confidence was fading, replaced by respect for the precision and mastery before him. The audience, too, sensed that the defining moment, the true resolution, was only seconds away. Every spectator felt the weight of what was unfolding, fully aware that history was quietly being written in real time. The decisive moment arrived like a held breath finally released. The swordsman lunged forward, more aggressively than ever, convinced that his final flurry could break the calm dominance he faced. His blade flashed through the air, each swing faster and sharper, an attempt to overwhelm Bruce Lee before the legend could respond. The audience's hearts pounded in sync with the attacks, some leaning forward in anticipation, others gripping the edges of their seats. The tension in the arena was nearly tangible. Every spectator felt that this was the turning point, the instant that would define the outcome. Bruce Lee remained poised, almost unervingly calm. His eyes tracked the sword's path with laser focus, every micro-movement accounted for. His body flowed like water, bending and twisting just enough to redirect momentum rather than resist it. Each dodge was seamless, each subtle counter a silent lesson in control. The swordsman's strikes, once bold and commanding, now seemed desperate and increasingly erratic. Every misstep, every slight imbalance, highlighted the growing gap between raw confidence and refined skill. The arena erupted into gasps at every narrow escape and subtle maneuver. The swordsman's expression shifted from arrogance to confusion, his certainty waning under Bruce's precise, measured control. It was not a matter of power. It was timing, anticipation, and awareness. Bruce's calm mastery dictated the rhythm of the battle. He was not merely reacting. He was orchestrating, reading the swordsman's intentions before they fully materialized. Every move the swordsman made became an opportunity for Bruce to demonstrate discipline, technique, and supreme focus. The swordsman attempted a final, bold combination, 2 swings in rapid succession, designed to break through Bruce's calm defense. But Bruce anticipated both. With subtle, almost imperceptible adjustments, he redirected the first strike, leaving the swordsman slightly off balance. Then, with precise timing, he countered the second, neutralizing momentum without a single overtly aggressive motion. The audience was captivated, witnessing a demonstration of mastery that transcended raw skill. It was a reminder that control, composure, and intelligence could outweigh sheer confidence or weapon proficiency. The swordsman hesitated, just enough to show that the psychological advantage had shifted. He realized that he could no longer dictate the flow of the duel. Bruce's calm, unwavering presence forced him to pause, to reconsider every action, every strike he had planned. The crowd felt the subtle change in energy. The duel had moved from uncertainty to a clear dominance of skill. Bruce Lee's final move was precise yet restrained, a demonstration rather than a strike intended to harm. With a single, fluid motion, he redirected the swordsman's blade, gently disarming the overconfident fighter without unnecessary force. The arena was stunned into silence, the weight of what they had just witnessed settling in. 45 seconds, or perhaps it felt like hours, had passed, and the duel's outcome was clear. Skill, focus, and mental composure had triumphed over raw confidence and reliance on a weapon. Every spectator, whether live or imagining themselves at home, felt the awe of witnessing history unfold. Bruce Lee did not gloat, he did not taunt. He simply stood, calm and respectful, acknowledging both his own mastery and the swordsman's courage. The lesson was evident. True strength lies not in overconfidence or aggression, but in anticipation, control, and unwavering focus. The swordsman, though disarmed and defeated, showed respect, meeting Bruce Lee's calm gaze with acknowledgement of his opponent's unmatched skill. The audience erupted in applause, appreciation for both the courage of the fighter and the mastery of the legend. It was a moment that transcended competition, a story of skill, composure, and respect that captivated everyone watching, a true demonstration of mastery in its purest form. The swordsman, though defeated, stood with dignity, acknowledging Bruce Lee's unmatched skill with a nod. There was no shame in his posture, only respect, a subtle recognition that raw confidence and weapon proficiency could not surpass true mastery. Bruce Lee, calm and composed as ever, returned the gesture, demonstrating that victory was not about humiliation or dominance, but about discipline, focus, and restraint. The audience, both present and watching from afar, felt the weight of the moment. It wasn't merely a contest of physical ability. It was a display of mental control, anticipation, and the power of composure under pressure. Spectators' emotions shifted from suspense to awe. What began as excitement had transformed into reflection. Fans could feel the difference between raw power and skillful mastery, between overconfidence and focused discipline. Every motion, every dodge, every counter Bruce executed had conveyed more than combat technique. It conveyed a philosophy, a way of approaching challenges with precision, patience, and control. The swordsman's courage, too, remained evident. He had faced a seemingly invincible opponent head-on, showing resilience even as the battle slipped out of his control. The psychological impact of the duel extended beyond the arena. Viewers were drawn into the scenario, imagining themselves in the fighter's shoes. Bruce Lee's calm mastery became a mirror for self-reflection. How often do we rush into challenges relying solely on confidence or raw ability, without considering strategy, awareness, and patience? How often do we underestimate the power of preparation, focus, and mental control? The audience was prompted to consider their own experiences, drawing lessons from the scenario rather than focusing on literal events. The arena's energy gradually transformed into admiration. Spectators applauded both fighters, recognizing that the duel had been about more than winning. It had been about courage, mastery, and respect. Bruce Lee's calm demeanor and precise skill inspired awe, while the swordsman's bravery in facing a legendary opponent drew equal appreciation. The moment became symbolic, a lesson in humility, resilience, and the power of controlled action over impulsive strength. As the crowd reflected on what they had witnessed, a universal takeaway emerged. Mastery is more than technical ability. It is mental control, anticipation, and composure under pressure. Bruce Lee's performance demonstrated that skill alone can shape outcomes, even against confident opponents armed with powerful tools. The swordsman's courage reminded everyone that facing challenges with bravery and integrity is equally important, regardless of the outcome. Together, the duel became a story of balance, skill meeting courage, focus meeting confidence, calm meeting force. Even after the duel ended, the lesson lingered. Spectators were emotionally and mentally invested, understanding that moments like these transcend competition. They teach principles that apply to life, personal challenges, and the value of preparation, awareness, and patience. The arena's applause reflected not only excitement, but comprehension of what had truly occurred, a demonstration of mastery that went far beyond the physical exchange. In conclusion, the duel became timeless. Bruce Lee's calm skill and precision, paired with the swordsman's courage and determination, created a story that captivated, educated, and inspired. Every viewer, regardless of location, could take something away. That skill and composure can triumph over confidence alone, and that courage in the face of overwhelming odds commands respect. The audience left with hearts racing, minds engaged, and a new perspective on mastery, preparation, and the quiet power of focused action. The duel had concluded, yet the tension and awe lingered in the arena like a quiet echo. Bruce Lee, calm and composed, had demonstrated something far beyond mere skill with his hands or feet. He had shown the world the power of focus, anticipation, and discipline. The swordsman, though defeated, remained upright and dignified, acknowledging the mastery he had faced. There was no humiliation, only a mutual respect that radiated throughout the arena and into the hearts of every spectator. This was not a story of domination. It was a story of balance between courage and mastery, confidence and precision, force and focus. As viewers, both in the arena and across the globe, imagined the scenario unfolding, they were drawn into more than just a fight. They were drawn into the psychology of mastery, the mental composure required to stay calm under pressure, and the subtle but critical difference between raw confidence and true skill. Every strike Bruce Lee anticipated, every micro-movement he executed, was a lesson in patience and control. The audience could feel the rhythm of the duel in their own hearts. The anticipation, the suspense, and the awe at watching someone operate at a level that seemed almost impossible. The swordsman's bravery remained equally inspiring. Facing a legendary opponent, armed with skill and calmness, required courage, perseverance, and willingness to test one's limits. His determination reminded the audience that courage and preparation matter, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Together, both fighters created a narrative that went beyond the physical, one that highlighted mental strength, respect, and the essence of skill. The duel's impact extended beyond the arena, prompting viewers to consider personal experiences. How often do we rely solely on confidence or aggression without assessing the situation fully? How often do we underestimate the importance of patience, focus, and preparation? By inviting the audience to reflect on these questions, the script transforms from storytelling into an interactive lesson, one that connects emotionally and mentally with viewers. The resolution emphasized the power of composure and anticipation over raw confidence. Bruce Lee's mastery was not about intimidation or overpowering his opponent. It was about precision, awareness, and control. Every spectator could sense that the outcome was dictated not by aggression, but by mental clarity and skillful execution. The swordsman's experience further reinforced that bravery, integrity, and willingness to face challenges are equally admirable, even in defeat. In the end, the story became timeless. It transcended the duel itself, leaving viewers with a memorable demonstration of mental and physical mastery, courage, and humility. The audience was left captivated, inspired, and emotionally invested, having experienced a moment that highlighted the value of skill, patience, and composure under pressure. Every viewer, regardless of where they watched from, was encouraged to take these lessons into their own lives, understanding that true mastery is as much about mental focus as it is about physical ability. The duel had ended, but its lessons, its suspense, and its inspiration would remain. Bruce Lee's calm, precise mastery and the swordsman's courage became a shared experience that sparked reflection, conversation, and admiration around the world. It was a story that proved, once again, discipline, focus, and composure are timeless, and courage paired with respect creates moments that no one forgets.